I remember my dad once coming. I said, Dad, I said, I know it's your anniversary today. And you went, is it? And then he came and he shook my mum's hand. I was like, what are you doing? He was like, happy anniversary. And I was like, what are you doing?
Hey, it's Ramblings of a Sikh here with another episode of the Sukh podcast. Today our special guest is comedian, actress and writer Sukh Ojla, and we'll be talking about growing up in a British Punjabi household, getting into comedy, her material, hecklers, acting, finding yourself and so much more. I hope you watch it to the end because it's one of the funniest podcasts that I've had the chance to record, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it too. So, let's get into it. Today, I'm super excited to say I've got the pleasure to talk to actress, writer and comedian Sukh Ojla. I've watched you on the TV, including Jonathan Ross's Comedy Club, BBC Two's Big Asian Stand-Up and Mock the Week. And recently, even got to see you deliver your hilarious comedy show, Life Sukhs. Before we get started into the actual podcast, I just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you for making the time today and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really been looking forward to it, despite having to reschedule it 15 times.
It's so good. Don't worry. I got to admit, it built up the anticipation a lot more as well, because I was like, oh, I'm going to get to talk to her today. No, not today. Wait, no, today. No, not today. Obviously, before we get into your material, what I would like to kind of first dive into is, who is Sukh Ojla?
Yeah, sure. So my parents came to the UK from Punjab, so near Jalandhar, Duaba for life. Then they came over in the 60s. They settled in Leeds. My parents got married here very young. They were like 18, 19. And I was born in Leeds and then moved down south to Gravesend when I was about 4. So that's why I don't have the accent. But like a lot of our families are like in Yorkshire. And and then only child and, very kind of, standard working class Punjabi background, my dad was in construction, mum was a machinist, that kind of thing. And grew up in like, obviously Gravesend it's got a large Sikh Punjabi community. My parents are both Amritari, so very like involved in the Gurdwara, very kind of, I was brought up, I was the Kirtan kid, So that was me.
So you've been on stage from when you were a child then, basically, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing is, I hated it. I hated performing on stage. I love doing Kirtan, I love listening to Kirtan. I still love listening to Kirtan now. But performing it on stage, I really didn't like it, which is so weird. It's now my career. But I remember just being like so anxious about it. And so that was me. And then I, went to school like a lot of people do, and and then I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I went to a grammar school where there were a lot of kind of A-star students, and I'm kind of like a B grade, C grade student, which means like if I went to a comprehensive, I'd probably be top of the class. But in a grammar school, if you get B's or C's, you're like, you're a dunce basically. So I was like, I don't really know what to do. The only thing that I really enjoyed doing at school was like drama and English literature. So I went to drama school and didn't go down too well with my parents, because they were like, are you kidding me? We've come all the way, like we traveled thousands of miles. We did all the rubbish jobs that we had people back home to do for us, and now we're doing them over here because white people don't want to do them. And now you're telling, like, now you're doing this. Are you kidding me? So that was like, it was a big deal. And then went into, drama school was interesting, early 2000s. It was very much, I was one of very few people of color, like in the school. I wasn't very in touch with my heritage or my roots really back then. I was in a very white kind of environment. I felt quite kind of uncomfortable with my identity and everything. And then I stopped doing it at 23. I was like, no, time to grow up. I was like 23, you're old now.
I should be married and have kids. What am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. And everybody else seemed to know what they were doing, and everyone else was like, yeah, I'm on track for this, I'm on track for that. And I was like, I still feel like I'm 16, like I have no idea what I'm doing. And I went into like education, so supporting children with special needs and that kind of thing. And then I turned like 26. And I completely turned my back on everything creative. Turned 26, and I was like, you know what? I really want a degree. I just really want that experience of going to university. Went to university, hated it. I hated every second of it. Because, you know, when you're a mature student, everyone else is like, you know, they were like, oh, they're 18 and they're all like going out and stuff. I felt like their bibi, right? I felt like their grandma at 26. I was like, they were like, are you going out? And I'd be like, no, I've got to go to my job. Like, I've still got like, I've got to work. I've got to pay the bills.
I've got a life. Like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they were all like out having fun, and I was like, no, I've got to go back and like, do wash the curtains and stuff like that, like do grown-up stuff. And so I hated that. Yeah, well, you know, like when you're like, oh no, I've got to do big clean, I can't. But you know what, the one thing that did make it worth it was when I graduated. I was 29 when I graduated. Mum and dad came to see me, and graduation was at the Barbican, and my mum turned around. I went to get my cap and gown. My mum turned around and she just saw me with my cap and gown, and she just burst into tears. Didn't even realize that she'd have that. And I think only after we had conversations, my parents were like, look, we weren't allowed to go to school. We had to work. We had to work on the farm. We had to come here when we were like, my dad was 16 when he came here. He was the head of the family. He was the eldest brother in this country. So he had to work. There was no like, oh, go to, do evening classes, learn English, whatever. He's like, I didn't have a choice. And he's like, it means so much that I think they very, very much feel their lack of academic education. And so then they're like, and now you're here getting a degree. Oh, I didn't have the heart to tell him that, like, I'm never going to use it. But
I don't think we ever do, to be honest. Like,
it's a
piece of paper. Yeah, straight.
It's mad. But anyway, I did that. And then I turned 30 and I was like, I had a bit of a realization, and I was like, I'm not happy. And I want to go back to acting because acting was my background. And then everyone around me was like, Sukh, what are you doing? You should be settling down. We're all settling. We've all got mortgages. We've all got matching funding. We've all got we're all grown up. We've got pensions and that. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like my 20s, I was like, can I just like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I just wanted to do something for me. And I wanted to do something to make me happy. And so I gave myself a year. And then my plan was, if it doesn't work, I'm going to become a primary school teacher.
Why is that the backup of all the things? That's surely like the work. Like, you could be dealing with all these little like kids, man.
I know.
Mad plans.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? I like working with kids. I've worked with kids before. I don't want to do secondary school because there's too much paperwork. I was like, I work in primary school. All you got to do is colour in, isn't it? No, actually, I know there's way more to that. I've worked in primary schools a lot. Anyway, so then do you know what? Everything happened so quickly. Like, I look back at it now and I feel so like, it was like full on, so good. Like, everything, my agent, first TV job, all this stuff kind of started happening, blah, blah, blah. And then stand up, I did a free workshop, and I only did it because it was free, because it's my favorite price. And and I was like, oh, it's a free workshop, I'll do it. I haven't got anything to do. I didn't realize it was going to be stand up. And then I was like, oh, okay. I love stand-up. I watched stand-up for years, but I don't understand how you do it. I didn't know any stand-ups at the time. I kind of fell into it, really. And then lockdown happened. All that stuff, like amazing things happened really early on. Like, the Asian network, some of the TV credits that you mentioned happened so quickly. My parents finally came round to it. That was a monumentous occasion. Like,
I was gonna ask, what were they like, considering like, so from what you've told me, they kind of sound very much like a traditional Punjabi couple who are very much like, it's education, religion, and kind of family. They're like the three keys. Mm-hmm. So like, what was it like? And on top of that, you're the daughter of the household as well. So I'm sure that had different kind of like a different context to it if you were a dude. Like, what were they like with you getting into comedy and like also with the acting and all of that? Like, how did they feel about it?
I think just to address the daughter thing, because my parents have raised me to be very independent, and there was none of this, although I can do all the things that, Punjabi daughters are taught, how to cook, clean, keep a house and stuff. They were also very much like, so like when I was born, I was like pretty much I was the first daughter in our family whose birth was celebrated.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like, you know, all that their relatives in India were like giving out laddu and patasse and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, they were like, oh, you got, you know, to my bibi, they were like, oh, you've got a grandson. And she was like, she's better than a grandson. Like, you know, so like that. So that's the thing. And my mum still goes, oh, I wish we'd done your Lodi. She's like, I wish we'd done your Lodi. I'm like, do it now. What do I get? What do I get? Do I get presents?
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that they have just always been like, you are not less than a boy, like, you know, and even they're like, you are no less than a man at all. And so I've, you know, got to commend them for that. But you know what, it's difficult for them. It's a completely different world. You know, all they've wanted in their life is stability and security for themselves and for their family. And like, you know, and a lot of people can relate to that. And they didn't get it. And they were like, what are you doing? And they're, you know, and are there any other Indian people doing? Are there Apne doing this? You know, like, is it, you know, is this Goryante is this white people behavior? What kind of crowd are you going to be with? And then the best thing was, I didn't tell them I was doing comedy because I was like, they've only just about got over the fact that, you know, I act. And now I'm going to be like, you know, my dad's going to be like, like, you know, why are you telling jokes?
It's probably better for you to tell him you're going to see a guy than that you're going to comedy, right? Like, as in,
you know what I mean? Exactly. And so I did the Asian Network, and it was on the red button. I thought it's on the red button. I thought maybe not that many people will see it. I was wrong. My chachi called up my mum, right? And my chachi was like, Sukhjeet, comedy karti. My mum was like, no, what are we talking about? And she put the phone down and she was like, Sukhjeet! She's like shouting out the stage. Yeah, you know, it's bad news when they use your full name, innit? I was like, yeah. And then she got really annoyed because she was like, other people are seeing you, we're not seeing you. I said, then they came to Gravesend. I said, look, yeah. So I said, look, I'm doing a Desi comedy show. You know, it's in Gravesend. You'll know, you know, all the other people that are there. Like, you know, you'll know them. It will be quite a safe environment. So mum and dad came. She wore a new suit. Like, she was,
that's so cute, man.
Really sweet.
Yeah.
She had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. So I sat them in the auditorium and I went and I checked in on them before the show started. I said, get in there early, because I said, I know what you're like. So I sat them in, like, you know, the best seats. I was sit on the end, blah, blah, and went up and I spoke to them. And my mum, I was like, Mum, you know, you all right? My mum was like, literally, are you wearing that? I was like,
oh, your mum is so good.
I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, you have no. And then she was like, what are you actually doing here? I said, I'm just going to tell jokes. And she went, is that it? She went, boss, he got She had just no idea. She thought I was doing a play. She thought I would be in a costume and a wig, you know, So then actually I did it. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying because I'm like censoring my material as I go along. I'm like, don't talk about boys, don't swear, don't, like, you know, I was just like, keep it clean. Yeah, I had to like keep it quite, you know, PG. And then also I was like, you know, I jokingly laugh alongside my mum when I tell anecdotes about her. Like you said, like, I'm not here to punch down. I'm not here to humiliate. I'm not here to, like, you know, make fun of them. But I was like, she might not see it like that because my mum might be a bit like, you know, like, you know, she might be like, you're making fun of me. So I was like, okay. So I kind of toned it down a little bit. And then at the end, I just said, look, you know, my parents are in the audience. It's the first time they've come to see me do stand-up comedy. And they got a massive round of applause. So they loved that. They loved that bit. And then I went out into the auditorium. I was 36 at this point, right? 18 is when I decided to go on the creative path. So literally half my life, we've been like this at each other. Like, it's the one thing that we've just not agreed on, right? Yeah. The one thing that they've just not been happy about. They can't kind of, you know, resist doing a little sniping, a bit of a, like, you know. And then so I went out into the foyer. My mum is surrounded, right? My mum is getting mobbed by all the aunties from the Gurdwara and all their daughters and their daughter-in-laws. I know, all those women I went to Punjabi school with, they're all like surrounding and they're like, oh my God, you're Sukh's mom, blah, blah. And they're like, Teri kudiya. Like, they're doing all this kind of thing. And my mum is in the middle, she's lapping out, she's like, ha, saadi kudiya. ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਹਨਾ ਜੋ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਨੇ ਕਰਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ ਦਿਓ I was like, are you kidding me?
Now that I'm here, it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah, in it. Now that other people, when she goes to the Gurdwara, people are like tapping her on the shoulder, going, "Oh yeah, we saw Sukh show," and blah 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 blah. You know, and she's like laughing it because other people, for our community, it's so important what other people think of you, right?
Oh man.
So now that other people like me, my mum was like, she's like, "Fine, you can do it." I'm like, "Thanks."
What? Why couldn't you say that at the start, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what, I'm so proud of them for how far they've come, and I'm so proud of them that we're finally at a place in our relationship where they can ask me questions about it. They know what I'm doing. If I'm like, I'm going to see a show, they know what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything shameful. I'm going up there, I'm not taking my couple off or whatever, like, they just know that I'm just there telling jokes. So they've come a really long way, considering, and I think to them they're also a bit like, how did we birth this gobby kind of like confident woman who's like can't sit still, whereas they're like, now, I mean, they're retired now, but they're very much like, dad goes to the Gurdwara, mum does this, blah blah, she goes to her yoga once a week, that's their kind of life, and they're like, I don't understand. Yeah, but even now, I'm not gonna lie to you, even now, like every kind of couple of weeks, someone would be like, like
get a proper job.
Get a proper job.
Get a normal job.
Yeah. तू ना same ਥਾਂ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰ ਸਵੇਰ ਨੂੰ, ਹਨਾ, ਉੱਥੇ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਰਾ ਦਿਨ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਰ, ਫਿਰ ਤੂੰ ਕਾਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਆ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰ. I was like, I'm never going to get a 9 to 5. I'm never going to go to the same place every single day. But I can tell that there's still that part of her that's like, oh, I really want that for you.
Yeah.
And my dad's very different. My dad, last time I went to see them, my dad was like, do you have a pension? And that's his way of saying, I care about you, right? Because my parents are never the type, like a lot of like that generation, they're never going to be like, oh, I love you, I'm so proud of you, darling.
Yeah.
You're doing so well. Mummy and daddy love you. Like they're never like that.
Nope.
My dad just nope, never. My dad just went, oh, okay, I know you come, okay. I was like, yeah, it's quite difficult actually, Dad. And he was like, John of Tiga. I was like, and that is like, that's praise.
You better have a pension as well, innit?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like,
But I think one thing that you've picked up upon is that generation are very much concerned with financial stability because of their experience with obviously like dealing with such a tumultuous life. And I find it really cute the way that your parents have kind of grown with you on your journey, because it's like they first were like, nah, I'm not having it, like go get a real job, like what is this? And then actually for them to turn up and like just be taking it all in it's so cute. Like your mom sounds so brilliant, bless her. Oh man.
Yeah, do you know what? And that's the thing, I think, sometimes we can give our parents a hard time, especially us, people who were kind of here, have all the privileges that our parents didn't have, and we can give them a hard time. But I think what we've got to remember is they're trying their hardest. They really are. And their parents were even harder on them. So if we think they're harder on us, like I know that my grandparents were harder like on my parents. So it's like, actually, considering that's the background they come from, they're doing really well.
Oh, completely. Well, you've kind of answered the next two questions, so that's quite helpful. But I was reading that your first play, Pyar Actually, was touring nationwide back in 2017, if I'm correct, in 2018.
Yeah.
So for those who aren't necessarily aware, what was that play about besides the detached double garage? And was that the start of your like acting/comedy career, or was that just something you were doing like separately?
No, I was doing it separately. I'd kind of only just started doing stand-up, and I just, there's a theatre company called Rifco who are based at Watford Palace Theatre, British Asian theatre company, and they were like, we've got this funding. Do you want to develop an idea? I already had a working relationship with them, and I was like, yeah, okay. And they said, right, the way they like to work, they were like, one of the ways they like to work is I like to go into the community and speak to people and be like, okay, what are the interesting stories? What do people want to hear about? What are people talking about? And so we did it in Gravesend, actually, funnily enough, and put a call out, and we said anyone can come. Like anyone, you don't have to be Indian, whatever, South Asian, like anyone can come. It's open to anyone. And kind of like a workshop thing. And the only people that came were Punjabi Sikh women who were like 40 plus. It just so happened just so happened to be, they all brought their mates. And I was like, that's so weird. We ran a little workshop and we started talking and it was really informal. And I found that generation, I was like, the kind of the in-between generation, right? So they might have been maybe born in Punjab and then came over when they were like 2 or 3. So they felt very British, or they came when they were a lot older and they really struggled to kind of, fit in and stuff. And they had to do their schooling here. And, they were kind of latchkey kids, right? Their parents went to work and I was like, that's so interesting. But a lot of them, were very much had the upbringing that my parents had, where it's like, you marry who you're told to marry, you do what you're supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. So by the age of like 40 odd, their children are grown up because they all got married at 18 or 19, like my parents did. And they were like now empty nesters. And they were going, well, hold on, what do I do now? I've got this job, my husband does this, we kind of grown together, but now the kids are gone. Actually, I'm not very happy. And all I was hearing again and again were themes of alcoholism in the Punjabi community amongst men, especially. I was hearing about domestic abuse. I was hearing about just kind of neglect in relationships, husband and wife relationships. I was hearing about kind of, broken dreams and like not having the opportunity to kind of follow your dreams, or not feeling like you had a choice and trying to do the right thing, and then realizing that sometimes the right thing doesn't make you happy, and that we're not all the same. And so that's what the story was about. It was about this woman called Polly, who was like in her early 40s, who sees her teenage sweetheart after like 20 odd years, and it's like she's transported back to those times when you'd like go to daytimers, or like, because she's that generation, they're all like, sneaking out, and you can't call each other because you obviously only got the house phone. You can't call each other because your dad might pick up, and and all of this kind of thing. And it was kind of like rekindling that, and her kind of having a second chance at love and at life. But it was a tiny bit controversial, I think, for probably the more traditional members of the Asian community came to see it, because technically she did cheat on her husband with him. But every character that I write, whether it's my book or whether it's plays or whatever I do, I don't want to make them perfect. I don't want to make them necessarily likable. And I love when I, read or see stuff on telly or whatever, I love characters where you're like, I shouldn't like you, but I do. Like, I shouldn't, one of those ones where you're like, I really don't want to root for you, but I kind of do because you're really human.
Yes, that's just it. It's human rather than this like perfect like superhero or like supervillain individual who you can like either really love or really hate. And I think it's something that's kind of lacking, like just generally, because even if you look at a lot of just like the media at the moment, it's very much like polarized. It's very much like X or Y. It's never kind of all right, maybe there's something somewhere in the middle, perhaps.
There's no nuance.
Nothing at all. And I think bringing that, like just like with your comedy with Life Sukhs, it was like on the ball, very nuanced, and it wasn't punching down. It was like creating those jokes you would have with your cousins or your family if you were all together, and everyone knows people in your family aren't perfect. Like everyone, everyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how did that play then? You were saying like some of the reactions were a little bit kind of perhaps not as positive in respect to them being like a bit more traditional, but like overall, what was the reaction like?
Overall, it was super positive. I still get messages, people saying, are you bringing it back? Are you bringing it back? Because there's a certain section of women who are like, oh, that's my life on stage. That's my life on like, I remember sneaking around to meet boys and to be like, really, be really like, oh my God, I really hope that auntie doesn't see me if I'm doing this, or, but then also being heartbroken because you're like, well, my marriage has already been arranged to this person, so I need to knuckle down and make the most of it. And there were women that I spoke to who were like, my husband's got a problem with alcoholism. He's not getting any help for it. I'm finding bottles of alcohol stashed away around the house. It's breaking our family apart, blah, blah. I don't really know what to do. I can't divorce him because what would the community say? What would my parents say? We've been together for like 20 odd years. So it's like super sad. But also these women are now like, hold on, actually, I'm not old. I'm 40. They were like, actually, I'm in my early 40s. They're like, I'm not old. Like, I've still got all this life. And what am I going to do with it? And I just thought it was such an interesting dilemma. So a lot of women were like, oh my God, that's, and someone, I remember I did it. I can't remember where I did it, but someone grabbed me. She was like, do I know you? And I was like, no, I don't think we know each other. She was like, because you just told my story on stage. And I was like, I promise you, I've not stolen your story. I was like, it's not one person's story. It's bits of all stories put together. And she was like, right. I was like, oh my God, I was going to get shanked. I was
You're just trying to get your sabji and that, from the supermarket, and next Bibbi's trying to, Bibbi's just beefing, man. You're like, yo, stop, please, relax.
Please, can I just get my kareli and go? But yeah, I think it struck a chord with a lot of people. And, I think my main objective for creating that work and other work that I do as well is I'm looking at the narrative, the way that we're portrayed in the media and South Asian people in general, and it's like, you're either a terrorist, you're a religious fanatic, or you're totally westernized and you have absolutely no respect for your cultural heritage whatsoever. And there's nothing in between. And I said, I don't want to do, and this was my thing, was when I was writing the play, is I was like, I don't want it to be a wedding. I don't want there to be, some sort of honor killing or whatever. I was like, that's not to be all like doom and gloom. I still want there to be joy. I still want people to watch it and go, okay, I'm not South Asian, but I can relate to that.
Like, I think that nuance though is really missing just generally. And I think, again, with your comedy, it's culturally relevant, but it's very like precise. So I remember the jokes about Gordia Dagam had me in stitches for absolutely days, because actually that's what we all say and do. Like within Punjabis, like we're always like, Gordia Dagam, man, nasi nahi karna.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, we don't do that. Yeah.
We just don't. Like, and but it's also funny because a lot of the stuff that we do say that about, actually people in the community do it. And so it's like, it's almost like the play on everything. And so hence, like, I just think that is something that like I really appreciate. And I think seeing someone on stage such as yourself doing that, like, as in, I don't know what the English word is, but in Punjabi, like, we'd obviously say haunsla in it. Like, as in, it just gives you that haunsla. You're just like, yeah.
Yeah, like encouragement or confidence or yeah.
Or almost like, it's like almost like a shared, like, achievement. Because you're like, yeah, she's doing it. Like, I ain't done shit. I just turned up to watch you, right? But it's that appreciation of, actually, like, you get it, like, as in, you're not there reproducing stereotypes or punching down on us or taking the mick or whatever. Like, I think some comedians can be quite crass, but then having that nuance, it's just, like I genuinely appreciate it. Just then, like, checking with the play and the comedy, then, like, well, once you've done that play, was your goal, like you'd said, you kind of just fell into comedy? Like, was the goal just to continue with acting, or what was the plan at that point?
Well, I'm going to say this to you now. There's never been a plan.
Okay. I like that. That's a good plan.
Do you know what? For me, I've just realized in the last few years that the things that I wanted and the things that I've had in life, it just made me go, I wanted so little and I've been given so much. And it just kind of made me go, you know what? It's all in God's hands. Like, it's like, the things, I'm so happy. There were things that I used to like, there were like major acting jobs that I cried myself to sleep about because I was like, I really wanted that. That could have been my big break. And then something would come along the next week and it completely changed the course of my life. And I'd be like, oh yeah, remember when you were crying about like not getting that bit part in Transformers or whatever? Do you know what I mean? And then you're like, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed that year upon year, my life gets better. And I don't just mean career, I just mean in general, things are improving. I feel like, I'm growing as a person as well, and I'm kind of coming more into my own and stuff. So I think there's not really been a plan. I'm just kind of like, an opportunity comes along.
You're almost growing. And as things are happening, you're just like, yeah.
And things come along and I go, right, does it speak to me? Like, I have a thing where I go, is it a full body yes?
I like that. That's clever.
Like,
Do my inside say yes?
Yeah. Because we can all be up here going, well, I should do it for the money. Maybe I should do it because my. But into your heart is like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. But I read something about this full body yes, and it's like, there are moments in all of our lives where we go, yes, that is the right thing to do. And your logical brain might tell you, oh, don't do that, it's risky or whatever. But your body's like screaming at you for do it, because our body is like so wise, right? And we don't listen to it. So now I'm like, if it's a full body yes, I say yes. I didn't know I was going to write a book. I didn't know that, like, everything I do as well. I'm bloody terrified. I'm terrified. I'm like this. I'm clenched like this. I'm
tensed on stage. Yeah.
But that's I do amazing. It because if I gave into that fear, I would be doing nothing. I would be
Yeah.
on my sofa eating badam all day. Like I wouldn't be doing anything. like which is not a bad life actually.
You'd be quite clever at the end of it though, with all that
yeah,
badam power, man.
exactly. Yeah, I'll be wicked. I'll be hench as well. But yeah, so I think things come along. I say yes or no. And, you know, for years, my dream was all I wanted to do was be an actor. That's all I wanted to do was be an actor. And then I got older and I was like, look at comedy, look how much control I get. I get to talk about what I want to talk about. I don't have to rely on other people to go, oh, can you commission me to write this play or write this film or do this TV program? I can get up on stage and people will come and see me. And I feel like not only is it comedy, making people laugh is great, but we all make people laugh. You know, you said earlier, Punjabis are so funny, and in general, people are, you know, everything's funny. People, you know, people slipping over on a banana peel, like, you know, someone doing, you know, whatever, you know, a baby doing a fart. It's like, it's hilarious. But for me, it's like what you said is like having people in the audience going, I'm not alone. It's not just me, like means so much. And not to get too deep, but like a few years ago, I realized that we're all kind of walking around feeling quite alone and feeling quite isolated, especially, you know, going, oh, no one else can relate to me. I just feel like this, holding it all inside. So if for like an hour, someone comes to see my show and it's, you know, maybe a working class Punjabi person like me or a woman or whatever, or, you know, a second Punjabi person can come in and go, oh, okay, good. That's not only that has that made me laugh, but that's also made me feel seen. And that's really resonated with me. Like, I think that connection is so important. And so I kind of go towards things where I feel like I can connect and make some sort of difference, even if it's like very short-lived.
I think the experience of the comedy show itself is like an hour or so. So like that in itself is quite short-lived, but the impact of that comedy is like, I don't think there's a time limit to it, because I'm still sat here like, as in, I don't think that's ever gonna like leave my memory in that sense, because it's like, as you were saying, it's a shared experience. It's like I'm represented through you, or our whole community is represented through you, and it's in a positive light. It's in the light where you could like, it's a perfect balance, because you're out there doing what you want, but not at the expense of anyone, not at the expense of yourself, not at the expense of the community or whatever. And then just to have that representation, like, I just think it means so much. And I think this is now like maybe the 29th or 28th podcast like I've done. And I think I've spoken to maybe like 25 or more people. And I don't think there's been one person who hasn't said that they've gone through a similar experience. Those who are British born, who have lived in, or who have lived in Britain, I don't think none of them have said that they haven't gone through some type of experience where they're like, I don't quite fit in. Like where do I fit in? What is my identity? And actually a lot of them have gone from the question, me included, gone from the question of who am I and what is my identity, into then doing whatever work it is we've been doing to try and kind of like answer that question. So then to go out into the public domain and see a comedian almost answer those questions, it's quite difficult to put into words how influential and I think brilliant that is. But sticking on with the comedy thing, I wanted to find out, who were your comedy inspirations? Like, who did you watch thinking that, or who would you watch now thinking that's absolutely hilarious? So for me, like one of the all-time greats is Richard Pryor. Like, I just think some of his comedy is ridiculous, although it is very, very rude. So like, it's not really the same kettle of fish. But for me, like, I think he's one of the all-time greats. Like, who would you like? Who are your like top 3 or like top 5?
Oh wow. Okay, so I like observational comedy. Okay. Really, I like people who are like, so like Peter Kay, all-time favorites. Peter Kay, I can watch for hours on end. Everything, like, you know, I could relate to. You know, that the having you know, the I don't know if you had this, but he does this bit where they had video covers that look like books. Yeah, so like that kind of thing. It's wet play, you know, it's spitting, get the kids in, but you know, all of that stuff, you know, kids doing slides at wedding receptions. It's like, I don't know if it's because I'm also working class and my family's from the north as well, but I could really, really relate to all of that stuff, you know, all of that stuff, like, you know, that we do now. I do it all the time when I go to a restaurant and I'm absolutely stuffed and they're like, do you want to look at the dessert menu? And you're like, yeah, go on then. Always. Yeah, always. And so I found him so relatable, like his energy and his physicality, the way he moves around the stage. Sarah Millican, I really love,
good.
also a really lovely person as well. She's wicked. Paul Chowdhury, because he's so unapologetically dissy.
Yes.
He's so like, he's not playing like the game. So I was on his podcast recently, and we've got a lot of kind of similarities with our background and stuff like that, and why we do the things that we do. And, and we're not kind of, I think a lot of comedians of color can fall into the trap of whitewashing their comedy in order to appeal to a broader audience. And I don't want to do that, which probably means I won't be as successful as them. But actually, I love what I do, and I kind of want to talk about the things that I like and things that I enjoy. Robin Williams, I don't know if you've ever seen like Robin Williams. Oh, there's like a really old clip of him doing like he's just improvising. He's improvising for about 15 minutes, and it's like the 70s tiny. He's like this like skinny little guy, and like, he's quite early on in his career, and he's just improvising for like 10, 15 minutes, like doing all these voices, and he's just so quick. His characterization, it's just like instant. So so those are the people that I kind of like, those are my main four or whatever that I mentioned. That I just go, oh wow, like you're incredible. But I'm also not like a comedy buff, like for some people are like when I, like I would meet real comedy buffs. Like I met, like they would be like, when I started doing comedy, they're like, oh my God, you did Mock the Week. I'd sell my BB to do Mock the Week. And I'd be like, it's all right. Like it's no big, like it's cool. Like it's a job still. It's great. But I'm also like, there's calm down. So I think some people can get really like, that's like really fixated on like a goal, or really fixated on, if I do this, then it's going to do this. Whereas I find that, I don't know if you have this, I have this thing where like, if I do set a goal, or if I do like do that even if it's short term, I'll get there and I'll be like, oh, I thought I'd be happy now.
And
now I'm
like,
not
now
happy.
what?
Do you know what I mean?
Next,
now what?
like,
exactly. Yeah. And so that's so unfulfilling, isn't it? It's so unsatisfying. So
the benefit of just taking things kind of in your stride is just that you don't get like too hepped up when things don't go the right way or whatever, and you're not like, oh, I need to be on this program and I need to be doing this. You're just like, and I think that's one thing I really enjoy, and like it's come across quite well through the podcast, is like you just seem to be flowing with everything. Like as life is coming, you're just going with it, and I think that's quite it's quite almost like liberating to see, because you're not like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to get on the other thing. Like you're not anxious. You're not like,
I don't know when that happened, but it took a lot of therapy. Because I was that person who was like, this needs to happen, and then by this age this needs to happen, and then my life is just like so not what I thought it would be. I'm 37. I thought by this point I'd be married, I'd have 2 kids, I'd have, the dog, the Volvo, the big house, the double garage. I thought I'd have all that. I've got none of that, but I am still happier than I have ever been, which is so like, which takes a while to get your head around it. And, I just realized that actually you are who you are, innit? Like, this is the thing, like you are like, no amount of wishing that I could change who I am at my core is going to change that. All you can really do is try and improve.
No, completely.
Year on year.
So,
sorry, I feel like I'm giving a TED talk now. This is not, you're like, I just want to talk about comedy, and I'm talking about the human condition.
No. I really appreciate these conversations, because like they always tend to go in the direction that like they're meant to almost. So like as you know, like we put together a set of questions just to make sure we can kind of like have a skeleton, but then they go in whatever tangent, and like I think that's almost the benefit, because some podcasts I find are quite rigid. It's like, all right, ask question, answer, and I'm like, well, just like kind of with your comedy, I want to feel as though you're sat with someone just talking to them and just being like, all right, so what do you think about this or whatever. So with your comedy then, one thing that I was really like, and I think this was my main question really, especially when I left after watching Life Sukhs, which is like, what's your, and obviously you don't need to give the game away, but like what's your process in terms of like writing your material? How do you like sanity check it, or is it just like, all right, I've written this, I'm gonna try it, and then we'll go from there? How does that work? And also, how do you like come up with something like that's unique, obviously, but then also something that can flow for like an hour or even more?
I wish I could tell you there was a process. I like everything in my life, I'm like, I'll give it a go. So for Life Sukhs, I had a director, a really good friend of mine as well, called Simon Ferdose, It was really important for me that if I had a director, I wanted her to be working class, I wanted her to be British Asian, I wanted her to be like a woman of color at the very least. You know, I thought, I don't want to have to sit and explain to a posh white man about, you know, keeping plastic on the dining table chairs. Like, you know, she was just like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you sneeze and you don't leave the house. Like, she's just
you have to eat
yeah,
something sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just, we had that shorthand, and that was wicked. And I went to her at the beginning of 2020. I was like, I've got this tour. I was like, I don't think I've got a show, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And she helped me just sort it out in my head. And she went, there you go. That's your story. You want to talk about mental health. You want to talk about living at home. You want to talk about the community and its hypocrisy. You want to talk about being judged. You want to talk about all of these things. She's like, great. Like, it's all got a through line. And that's material that I'd been kind of working on for the past couple of years. And it all kind of fitted in quite nicely, and some new stuff. And I did like a few work in progress shows where I'm literally like reading off like a page, like, you know, I've got like topics that I want to talk about, and, you know, I've actually had like a script. And, you know, some people love to come and see that because they're like, oh, they're seeing it being built, right? Some people love to come and see that. And so, you know, and the thing about comedies, and this is one of the reasons that it's so terrifying if you're a perfectionist like me, is that you literally have to like go on stage and do it. You can't be in your house going, oh yeah, that's quite funny. It's like, because you have to try it out in front of an audience, and that's terrifying. That's fake. Like, you could fall on your ass. Like, you know, anything could happen. And it's like someone going into your draft emails. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, things that you would just never show anyway. It's like someone reading your diary or something. It's like so deeply personal, and you're like, oh. So it's quite, you know, makes you feel quite vulnerable. So that's how I do it. That's how I do it. And also generally I'm like, if it makes me chuckle, chances are other people will chuckle, really.
No, definitely. I don't know if you've ever had an experience of having to deal with a heckler, but I remember going to watch Jimmy Carr at the Warwick Arts Centre. This must have been a couple of years before like lockdown, so maybe like 2017 or something. And we were sat kind of right in the middle. Like, it was a big auditorium. We sat right in the middle, and it was two tiers. And the tier above, there was a guy sat like right near the front who was piss drunk. I mean, the dude was absolutely plastered. And I can't remember what happened, but he heckled Jimmy Carr, and I've never seen someone turn so quickly and just destroy someone's ego. Like, Jimmy Carr, I mean, made that guy feel about a centimeter tall, to the point where when they asked him to leave, his girlfriend covered her face with his coat because she was like, I just don't want to be seen with this guy, right? So like, I was in absolute bits. Like, I was just like, this is an experience that you like, if you told someone, they probably wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
And then obviously watching your show, it was very different. And obviously I don't think you necessarily get that type of crowd, but like, I'm sure you've had like, I'm hoping you've not, but I'm sure you've had a heckler or two. And like, how do you deal with them? And like does a different Sukh emerge when you hear a heckler's voice kind of come out and you're like, yeah, safe, game on?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think Jimmy Carr is so well known for that. I've seen so many clips of him just like completely roasting hecklers. Also, love the fact that the girlfriend covered her face like she was leaving court or something. Do you know what I mean? Like she's a criminal bundled into a car. So you know what? I'm really lucky I don't get that. There's twice I've been heckled that I can think about that kind of sticks in my mind. First one was a couple of years back. I was in Leicester doing a mixed bill gig, and there was just it's always a guy. It's always a guy. You know, I don't know what that is. It's always some drunk uncle like that I've seen that's done it. And this drunk uncle was like in the top little bit, and he was just, you know, when you ask a rhetorical question, he was just like this, and I was like, oh, he doesn't understand what a rhetorical question is. Anyway, I was like, give him one chance, 2 chances, 3 strikes you're out, basically. So I was like, give a couple of chances. And I was like, look, I'm not going to carry on because you're ruining it for everyone, basically. And he was just like shouting and stuff. And the best thing was, because he kept interrupting my material, was this little auntie got up, and she was in like the stalls. This little auntie got up, proper auntie. She had a sari on and she had a little kurti on top. And she's really cute. And she turned around and she went, you shut up.
I don't think you need to say much when Auntie's defending you, man. You're sorted.
That is it.
Yeah.
That is it. I was like, I need her to be my security because
Yeah.
he did. And all our kids were in the audience. We're like, Mum, sit down. You shut up. It really made me laugh. And then actually recently for Life Sukhs, this is the first time it's happened, so it really threw me. I've had sometimes you have like people who are a bit drunk, and sometimes people are a bit they don't heckle you, but they're a bit disruptive or whatever. And I had that, and that was fine because I just put them in their place. Because I remember this woman who they were so pissed, right? These women, and they were sitting on either side of me. So there was like half a group was here, half a group was here. I'm in the middle. And in the end, they're like looking at each other. She's got this bottle of rosé, and I was like, "Do you just want me to pass it to her?" I was like, "Do you want me to just like?" I was like, "Can you shut?" You know. And then she was chatting away, and I was like, "Listen," I said, I'm really glad you're here. Thank you so much for making the time. But everyone else has also come here too. So can you shut the f up like this?" And she was just like, "Oh." And then this uncle did it again. An uncle, front row, in the middle, and I was a bit like, is he drunk? Is he not well? Like, you know, what's the thing? Sometimes it can, you know, I don't want to be like throwing out someone who's, you know, necessarily, you know, maybe they're not drunk, maybe it's a mental health issue, maybe whatever, additional needs, whatever. And in the end, he got thrown out by the venue. And my only regret is I didn't do it sooner, because I turned around, and because I've worked for so long in education, I've worked for so long with naughty children, I kind of, I turn into a bit like, okay, now you're ruining it for everybody else. Okay. And it's not fair, is it? Okay. You should know better at your age, shouldn't you? Okay. No, I don't want to do this, but you're forcing. So I get like that because I'm just like, and it's not about I'm making you feel small. I was making a good point. I was saying the fact that people have paid good money to come and see your show. How dare you turn up and ruin that? If you don't like it, leave. That's absolutely fine. I've left during plays and shows before because I've just got, this is rubbish. You do it. But what I'm not going to do is announce my departure like I'm at Heathrow Airport. You know, I was just, and what I'm not going to do is disrupt it. You just go, okay, I won't come back after the interval, or I'll just, you know, I'll sneak out. I'll pretend I'm going to the loo. But, you know, but I don't want to disrespect that performer or disrespect the audience that I'm with. The best thing, it was in Birmingham, it was at the Glee Club. And this guy finally like gets taken away by the venue, and someone went, "On your way, Bob." Like, and I was just crying with laughter. But it's also like, it's that towards the end of the show, and I know that you remember the show and it's very kind of fresh in your mind, but the end of the show where I'm making quite a serious point about mental health in our community and, you know, all of these kind of things. And I kind of was just like, I was like, I'm not going to lose it with this guy, but I was like, it's a really important bit of the show, I thought to myself, and it is kind of the crux of the show, right? It's all like laughy, jokey, and that's all great. Yeah. And I don't want that message to be watered down because some drunk uncle can't hold his booze and he's pissed at like 7:30 on a Sunday. It's like, you know, look at yourself. But yeah, all of that. It still made me like, I still felt like icky about it. I came home, had a really hot shower because I was like, oh, bad vibes.
Yeah, keep that.
Just horrible. Yeah. Innit? I was like, proper, I got the thought out. I was like, nah, man, I need to like
replenish the house, get that positivity back in, put some park on. Yeah,
exactly. I was
straight.
Because you hold it in you, right? Those kind of experiences, you can kind of, you just make you feel a bit icky. So I'm lucky, I think, because I'm not saying anything too controversial. I don't think. I'm not kind of like you say, I'm not punching down. I don't pick on audience members. Even when I do laugh, I'm laughing with them, you know, and I know when it's too far. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not going to be personal. I'm not going to pick on someone's appearance or whatever, but it's all right. You have a bit of a laugh and a joke.
No, definitely. I just wanted to ask that because of after having experienced Jimmy Carr deal with hecklers, I just wondered whether you got them and how you deal with them. But it sounds like it's something that's kind of across the board. So no, fair. And big up to Auntie for defending you because we need more Auntie like that. Definitely need more Auntie like that, man. So. You've got a new book then set for release in March of this year, if I'm correct.
Right.
It's titled Sunny, and it's received numerous positive reviews already. I just wanted you to give everyone listening a bit of an idea of what the book's about, what can they expect, where could they buy it, kind of all of that, like the good information.
Yeah. So the book's called Sunny, which is also the name of the protagonist. The leading lady in the book is Sunny. She's similar to me in the sense that she's a British Punjabi Sikh woman. She is in a small town. She's moved back in with her parents at 30. She feels a bit lost. And she's a bit like, oh, everyone's, buying houses and getting married and having babies and blah, blah. And I'm just in my childhood bedroom, still got E17 posters up on the wall. Like, she's a bit like, what's going on? Her parents are quite traditional. It kind of, it draws on elements of my life. Like her parents aren't Amritari, but and she doesn't have the closeness to her heritage and culture that I do and her faith that I do. But she's working in a kind of dead-end job. She's dating, but it's on the down low because she knows that her mum wouldn't approve. And then one day she's coming back. So she's living that double life that a lot of, like, certainly my generation did. I think it's a bit different now. But she kind of comes home, she gets dropped off by a guy and her mum is still awake. Yeah. So she comes in the house and the light flicks on. Remember those moments when the light flicks
on? Run, leave the house, don't come back, get the passport, go to a different country, man. Game over.
Yeah, that's it. Fake your death, you got to start again.
Yes.
And so she sees her mum and she's like, this is it, I'm gonna get thrown out, she's gonna disown me, I'm at the very least I should have hidden the shoes before I would, like, now I'm gonna get a stuff onto my head.
I should have left the back door open so I didn't have to use the keys.
Exactly. Yeah. Why didn't I get him to drop me off down the road?
Yes. Yep. At the shop, and then I could have got a bottle of drink and looked like I just gone to the corner shop. Yeah.
No, we've done it all. And her mum surprises her, and her mum goes, okay. She's like, I know what you're doing because I'm your mum. Mums always know. She's like, good, well done for trying to keep it from me, but I knew exactly what you were doing, what you were up to. If you're going to live under my roof, you can date, but I want to vet the people that you're dating.
Man. Well, fair, I guess.
So then she's like, hold on, this is a whole part of my life that I've kept secret, and now my mum wants to look at my Tinder, right?
It talks to a lot of people's realities, though, but you're definitely on the ball in that you spend, and I think it also talks to the traditional perspective, which is you spend all your life like, you can't talk to girls, you can't talk to boys, and then it's like, all right, you're 21, let's get you married. You got your degree, all right, let's get you married. And you're like, what?
Yeah, up until last week, I wasn't allowed to look at a boy, and now you want me to marry the first one I meet. Yeah,
and then you want me to make a baby with that other person within like 6 months. What? Like, I haven't been allowed to touch another person, and now you want me to go to like 6 base or whatever it is. Like, what's going on?
Exactly. And you want me to move in with his family? Are you mad? I can't even live with my own. Like.
And it's like, you probably like, and I guess a lot of us could probably relate that with like, you never see your parents kiss or anything, and then it's like, get married and have a baby. You're like, what? What?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my dad once coming. I said, Dad, I know it's your anniversary today. And you went, is it? And then he came and he shook my mum's hand. I was like, what are you doing? He was like, happy anniversary. And I was like, what are you doing?
So that's what they would do though. Like it's such an accurate representation. Oh, bless.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, why don't you want to do this? Anyway, so basically Sunny it's also about your mental health. It's about friendship groups changing as you get older. It's about work. It's about, the fact that there isn't really a blueprint, especially for women. If you're not doing like what you should be doing, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Travel.
Yeah.
Like, this was all my thing. Like all my white mates were like, kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to go travel. I was like, I don't want to travel. What if I don't want to travel? What if I just want to like sit under my umbrella and eat biscuit? Like what like why do I have to go get a backpack on and go to some country, get malaria and like, do you know what I mean?
Why do I have to discover myself in a foreign land? Like, why can't I do that here? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What if I've got other aspirations anyway? So it's just about that kind of like finding yourself and happiness and finding happiness in, not looking for happiness in outside places and all those kind of things. And, people that have read it so far have like it's really resonated with them as well. And and it's my first book. So I'm terrified and excited, and it's available for pre-order now. So you can get it from all good bookshops where you get your books from, and it's out on the 3rd of March. And so man.
No, awesome. No, you should be immensely proud of yourself, because I think with the comedy, with the book, with everything you're doing, like I'm certainly rooting for you. I know my mum's definitely rooting for you too.
Thank you.
I think things like this need to be appreciated more because we just don't get to see it. And I think like when it comes, it's like, oh my gosh, please hold on to it, wrap them in bubble wrap and like protect them, like just like keep them forever type of thing. So I'm certainly like very much like impressed, and definitely think that everyone listening should go and buy the book or go and see Sukh on her next tour, because like it is like, I think you can gather from the conversation, like it was absolutely brilliant comedy show, and like I loved it. My mom was absolutely in bits that I got to talk to you as well, so definitely rub that in her face. All right, I just wanted to double check. Is there anything that you wanted to like go over? Is there anything that you've got coming up that you wanted to announce or anything like that?
So the tour still goes on to the end of February, and then the book's out beginning of March, but we've covered that. So
awesome.
So yeah, that's it. And there's other stuff that I can't talk about. So
okay, is there anything that you can hint to in terms of what to expect, like coming from you in the future or this year or anything like that?
A couple of TV appearances.
Okay, nice.
That's what I can say, really.
Fair. All right. No, that's absolutely fine. I guess all we could add to that is just keep an eye out on Sukh's socials, and then you'll obviously be able to see like what's going on. Just want to check again, because otherwise I actually have gone through all the questions that I've got. Which is like, there's nothing else you wanted to mention or to go over or anything like that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to kind of rack my brains. There'll be other stuff that I'll be on telly for, but I can't talk about it now.
In that case, I'll obviously let you kind of carry on with the rest of your day and enjoy yourself.
Thanks, man.
I've genuinely not laughed this much in a podcast at all.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I wish you all the best for the year ahead and everything you've got coming. I would definitely keep an eye out for kind of any future shows and stuff like that, because like I really do appreciate your work. And I think I've pre-ordered your book, so once it turns up, I would definitely read through it and hopefully put a review out as well, because it will be my first like non-history book that I would have reviewed, and I think it works because then also I've actually got to talk to you too, so like it's a nice like connection. But no, I won't keep you any longer. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. So you've made it to the end of another podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You could probably tell that I couldn't stop laughing throughout the recording. If you've enjoyed it and want to keep up to date with future content, then feel free to subscribe, and while you're at it, why not leave a like or a comment and let me know how you felt about the podcast. If you want to see unreleased footage from this podcast and future podcasts, as well as getting early access to all future podcast episodes, then why not consider becoming a member of my YouTube channel today. Otherwise than that, I will see you all in the next one.